Guangquan, what's that you talking in your sleep? If you've got the guts, say it again. Liu Ruan's voice wasn't particularly loud, but the 2-meter-tall money tree in the living room seemed to sense the deadly chill in the air. Even its leaves gave a little shiver. I crossed my arms over my chest, protectively. I leaned against the edge of the sofa, desperately trying to stop my legs from shaking, out of sheer, overwhelming nerves. Taking a deep breath, I decided to just go for broke. Word by agonizing word, I repeated it. I said, I can't live like this anymore. We're getting a divorce. I enunciated those last 2 words with such force that even my daughter, who was currently busy destroying an apple nearby, hit the pause button. Little 3-year-old Lu Nyangxia was sitting cross-legged on the wool rug. The half-eaten apple in her hand stayed frozen in midair. Her eyes, like 2 dark grapes, were darting all over the place. Her gaze ping-ponged between me and her mom. A shiny smear of apple juice still hung from the corner of her mouth. I knew that expression all too well. The little traitor was already settled in for the front-row drama. Liu Ruyan casually set her wine glass on the coffee table. It made a dull, crisp clink. The force wasn't heavy, but it felt like a sledgehammer, slamming right into my chest with precision. She was wrapped in a dark green velvet robe. Her long hair was pulled up effortlessly. A few stray, rebellious strands fell against her pale ivory skin. The heating was turned way up in the house. Her collar was slightly open. The faint shadow, peeking out just beneath her collarbone, made my throat feel a little tight. I cursed myself for being so pathetic. At a critical moment like this, my mind was actually wandering off on things like that. Liu Ruyan lifted her gaze to me. Her long eyelashes didn't even flicker. Gu Wangquan, are you sure you know what today is? New Year's Eve, I said, chin up, trying to maintain my aura. I know your parents are arriving soon, but even knowing they're about to walk through that door, you choose this exact moment to throw a fit about divorce. She slowly rose to her feet. I instinctively retreated half a step. Don't get me wrong. This wasn't fear. It was strategically creating space. Liu Ruyan might be half a head shorter than me, but as soon as she stands in front of me, that overwhelming presence of hers makes me feel like I've shrunk considerably. This woman is only 28, the rightful matriarch of the Liu family empire, fighting in the business trenches at 18, ruling her own domain by 23. At 27, she'd already pushed her branch's revenue to a 900 million peak. Then there's me, Gu Wangchuan, also 27. 3 years as a live-in husband. On the surface, I'm the stay-at-home dad. But in reality, I am the subordinate, under her 360-degree management. It's not that I wanted to start this tonight, I said, struggling to keep my voice steady. I just think that, since the spark is gone between us, it's better for everyone if we're honest now. Why drag it into next year? Causing a scene on New Year's Day is bad luck. Don't you agree? No more spark. She took another step closer. I took another step back. 3 years ago, you scratched my Panamera. You couldn't have paid for it if you sold everything you own. When you agreed to be my contract boyfriend, what exactly did you promise me? I stubbornly held my ground. That's ancient history. At the time you said, she actually started mimicking my voice. But her voice is naturally clear and cold. The imitation wasn't very convincing. Relax, Miss Liu. My acting is top tier. I'll make sure your parents can't find a single flaw in US. And when the act started feeling real, what did you vow the night we got our license? She kept pressing. Wife, I'll spend my whole life giving you everything. If you ever tire of me, I'll never bother you again. Those were indeed the words I'd said myself back then. But at the time, who could have guessed that she would become this domineering? Then later, when I was pregnant, You made a promise to my belly. She finally stood right in front of me. She reached out a slender finger and poked my chest lightly. Our daughter can take your last name. I, Gu Wangshuan, have no complaints. You are the supreme leader of this family. I will always follow your command. And now, she pulled her hand back. A cryptic, cold smirk played on her lips. The organization has nurtured you for 3 years. Think your wings are strong enough now? Planning a little rebellion. I took a sharp breath and held it. No. I have to reclaim my dignity as a man today. Liu Rian, use some basic logic here. I intentionally kept my voice low, fearing I'd wake my daughter. For over a year now, I have to report before I even step out the door. I have to ask permission to see a friend. I have to apply for my allowance every week. I even have to write a proposal just to buy a gaming console. I am 27, not a 17-year-old kid. So, I've reached my limit. My voice finally rose a few notches. To you, am I just a convenient punching bag you can order around? Some boy toy living off your wealth, aren't you? I was instantly speechless. She tilted her head slightly. She looked serious, as if she were reviewing a $10 billion contract. You agreed to the marriage terms. You chose to quit your job and stay home. You even volunteered to take care of the child. Wan Quan, you paved this road yourself. Now you're turning around to blame me. I'm not blaming you. I fumbled for words for a moment. I just think our vibes are off. The chemistry is wrong. We just don't fit. She finally let out a soft chuckle. But that laugh sent a chill straight down my spine. 3 years together. Our daughter is already 3 years old. And now you suddenly blurt out that we don't fit. The living room fell into a dead silence for 3 long seconds. Then, my daughter's voice, crisp as a silver bell, shattered the stalemate. Mommy, is Daddy about to get a spanking? Liu Ruyan looked down at our daughter. I also stared down at the little one. Liu Niangxia. The little munchkin had already finished her apple. She was clutching a tissue, her chubby little face beaming with glowing eyes. Her whole face practically screamed, "Fight! Fight! I'm ready for the show." Liu Ruyan's voice softened. You're finished with your apple? Go wash your hands. But Daddy hasn't finished his speech yet. The little brat didn't budge an inch. She even scooted closer to the edge of the sofa, finding herself the perfect vantage point. Daddy, keep going. I'm listening. This daughter of mine isn't just a drafty jacket. She's practically installed an exhaust fan. Niangxia, be a good girl and go wash up. I tried to salvage my crumbling fatherly dignity. Daddy and Mommy are talking about serious things. What things? Grown-up business. Then I definitely need to hear it. She blinked her big eyes. Grandma said, that grown-up business is where the best drama is. Liu Ruyan and I locked eyes, both of us speechless. Liu Ruyan's mother, my mother-in-law, Yuanjin, really had no filter. Last time when Niangxia asked her what it meant to live off a woman, I was so embarrassed I wanted to vanish into the floor. Gu Wanghuan. Liu Rian fixed her gaze on me again. Are you sure you want to talk about this in front of the child? I wavered. Truth be told, I wasn't actually dead set on leaving. I was just feeling incredibly stifled. I'm just so frustrated. What kind of life have I been living these past 3 years? Reports for every exit, applications for every cent spent. Even making a friend requires a background check from her first days. Even what I wear is decided by her. She says I look better in casual clothes, so I can't touch a suit. She likes my hair short and tidy, so I have to report to the barber every single month like clockwork. Am I her legal husband, or just a pampered pet? But all this venting, I really couldn't do it in front of Niangxia. Niangxia. I crouched down. I tried to make my tone sound as loving as possible. Mommy and Daddy need a private talk behind closed doors. Why don't you go watch some cartoons in your room? No. And why not? Because you guys are gonna fight. The little one puffed out her chest and declared righteously, I have to stay and protect Mommy. The corner of Liu Ruian's mouth twitched almost imperceptibly. She looked like she wanted to laugh, but forced it back down. You're going to protect me. She leaned down to tease our daughter. Niangxia sprang up from the rug and dashed over to her mother. She hugged Liu Ruian's leg tightly. Then she turned and shouted at me, Daddy, don't you dare bully Mommy. Mommy is so slim. There's no way she can beat you. I pointed at my own nose, completely flabbergasted. I'm bullying her. Yeah. Which eye of yours saw me even lay a finger? Both of them. The little one was full of logic. You just made Mommy so mad she jumped up. And you kept backing away. Guilty conscience. Obviously. Liu Ruian finally couldn't help it. A laugh escaped her red lips. That flash of joy actually melted a hardened corner of my heart for a moment. But just for a moment. Fine. I stood up, feeling a bit petty. Niangxia, you stay and protect your mom. I'll just leave then. How about that? No, not allowed. You've gotta be kidding me. Why now? If you leave, who's gonna tell me my bedtime story? The little one was full of confidence. Mommy's stories are so boring. She sounds just like she's reading a textbook. Liu Ruian. Now it was my turn to almost lose it, and laugh. The tension eased for a weird few seconds. Then, the doorbell rang sharply. Your parents are here. I looked at Liu Ruian for help. She stared straight at me, with something in her eyes I couldn't quite read. Wu Wang Quan, watch your mouth. Whatever score we have to settle, we'll do it. After they leave, behind closed doors. She scooped up Niangxia and walked toward the foyer. I followed behind her, my heart racing for some reason. The door swung open. A gust of cold wind, carrying the faint smell of fireworks from the neighbors, hit Use. There they were. My father-in-law, Liu Hongyuan, was holding 2 boxes of fancy supplements. My mother-in-law, He Wanjun, in 10-centimeter stilettos, was already peeking inside. She locked onto my position immediately. Wan Quan, she smiled warmly. Happy New Year. Oh, why do you look so much thinner? Tell me, is Ruian skimping on your food again? I managed a polite standard-issue smile. Mom, no way. I'm living the good life. Glad to hear it. She squeezed inside while changing her shoes. Let me tell you, health is a man's biggest asset. It's hard work taking care of the kid all day. If Ruian is ever too hard on you, you just come tell Mom. I'll straighten her out for you. I could only give a dry laugh. Suddenly, Liu Ruian chimed in from behind, indifferent as ever. Mom, what could I possibly do to him? Oh, I was just saying. He Wanjun waved her hand. Oh, you child. As your mother, you think I'm just making things up about you. Liu Hongyuan set his gifts down and shot a cold glance my way. It was that classic look of a high-ranking businessman, carefully calculating, sizing me up like a piece of merchandise with an uncertain price tag. He gave me that same look when I first walked through their door 3 years ago. 3 years later, nothing has changed. I thought to myself bitterly, even if I stayed with this family for 30 years, in his eyes, I'd probably still just be the barely adequate live-in son-in-law. Dad, I said, forcing a greeting. He gave a slight nod. How have you been? Pretty good. And work? I choked on my words. He knew perfectly well. I don't even have a job outside the house. Being a stay-at-home dad is a full-time grind in itself. He Wanjun hurried to play peacemaker. Oh, Hongyuan, stop it. It's New Year's. Don't start with the interrogation. Liu Hongyuan didn't press further. He took a seat on the sofa. He pulled out his phone and started scrolling through. The atmosphere froze into an awkward silence. Luckily, Nyanxia slid down from Ruyan's arms just then. She toddled over on her short little legs. "Grandpa." A rare smile finally broke across Lu Hongyuan's face. "Ah, Grandpa's precious girl. Grandpa, did you bring me a present?" "Of course, I did," He Wanjin cut in. "Grandma got you so many new clothes and toys. They're all in the trunk. I'll have your daddy go down and get them in a bit. Daddy, go get them." Nyanxia immediately turned and gave me the order. I nodded repeatedly. "Right away. Daddy's on it." Ruyan had already slipped into the kitchen. She was getting started on the New Year's Eve feast. He Wanjin followed her to help out. That left just me, Liu Hongyuan, and Nyanxia. After playing with his granddaughter for a while, Liu Hongyuan suddenly looked up at me. "Wang Xuan, walk with me to the balcony. Let's talk." My heart skipped a beat, but I kept my cool on the outside. "Sure thing, Dad." He Wanjin took Nyanxia away. I followed Liu Hongyuan onto the balcony. As the glass door shut, the biting winter air instantly wrapped around us. The plants on the balcony shivered in the cold wind. "Smoke?" Liu Hongyuan offered a cigarette. I took it with both hands. "Thanks, Dad." He lit his own with a practiced motion. Then, he held the flame out for me. He stayed quiet for a moment before speaking. "Ruyan mentioned you two have been having a bit of a disagreement lately." I froze mid-drag. Ruyan had already leaked the divorce talk to her parents. "It's nothing like that," I denied instinctively. "Just a small bump in the road between a husband and wife." "A small bump?" Liu Hongyuan stared at me with piercing eyes. "Her mother called her just now." She heard the edge in her voice. That's how she got the truth out of her. I had nothing to say. "Wang Quan." Liu Hongyuan exhaled a slow ring of smoke. His voice was as deep and cold as the winter night. "When I gave my blessing for you to marry Ruyan, do you actually know why I did it?" I shook my head hesitantly. The truth was, I knew exactly why. But in a situation like this, playing dumb was my only dignity. Because Ruyan was set on it. He gazed out at the shimmering city lights beyond the balcony. "She's my only daughter, the apple of my eye. If she asked for the stars, I wouldn't dare give her the moon. She said she wouldn't marry anyone but you. As her father, I had to let her have her way. But in these 3 years, have I ever made things difficult for you? No, not really. You've never really shown me any attitude." He turned back. His gaze cut right through me. "To be honest, occasionally, you have. I decided to speak the truth. Liu Hongyuan let out a cold laugh. That laugh held a depth that was hard to decipher. "Occasionally, I was testing your character. I've seen plenty of men who marry into wealth. Some want the money. Some want the person. The ones who want the person, I can tolerate. But if it's the money, I'll make them pay back every cent, with interest eventually." I met his gaze. My voice was steady. "So, Dad, which one do you think I am?" He looked me over for a long time. Finally, he stubbed out his finished cigarette, hard into the ashtray on the railing. "I can't tell. That's why I'm asking. What kind of game are you two playing?" Faced with such overwhelming pressure, I didn't know how to answer. Should I just be blunt? Tell him I'm tired of being a caged bird in a gilded mansion? That I'm suffocated? To an old fox like Liu Hongyuan, who has survived the brutal business world, those words would sound both childish and pathetic. "It's nothing, Dad. You're overthinking it." I finally went with the safest excuse. "Just typical couple stuff. Don't worry." Liu Hongyuan gave me one last, long look. He gave a small nod. "If you won't be straight with me, I won't force it. But remember, don't let my daughter suffer one bit." Leaving it at that, he turned and went back inside. I stood alone on the balcony until the last trail of smoke vanished. The cold wind bit at my neck. I suddenly felt like this whole scene was pretty ironic. Suppose I did divorce. Then what? Go back to some moldy cheap rental, slaving away at a job that barely pays enough to buy Nhi a single Lego set. Ruyan was definitely overbearing. But the life she provided for me was something most people couldn't achieve in several lifetimes. Still, I couldn't get over that hurdle in my heart. The New Year's Eve dinner wasn't exactly relaxing. During the meal, Hwangjan casually brought up a new topic. Ruyan, Nhi is already 3 years old. Shouldn't you start thinking about a second one? Ruyan's chopsticks paused for a second. Her tone was cold. Mom, we're eating. Eating is exactly when we should talk about things like this. Hwangjan added some fish to her bowl. Look at your father. He wanted a second child back then. I didn't agree. Thinking back, it really does feel a bit lonely now. Nhi must be so lonely playing by herself. Wouldn't it be better to have a sibling for company? Grandma, I don't want a little brother. Nhi immediately raised her hand in protest. A brother would definitely steal all my toys. Well, then a little sister. A sister would steal them too. Then what do you want? The little one didn't even have to think. I want a puppy. Liu Hongyuan was amused. Who did she get this wit from? Hwangjan glanced at me. She said significantly, she takes after her father. Wang Quan has a good temper. He's sensible and never fights for anything. I looked down silently. Bitterness welled up in my heart. Good temper? Never fights. That's because I don't have any chips to play with at this table. Mom. Ruyan put down her chopsticks. Her face was like ice. Let's talk about this later. Always later. Do you have anything else in your head besides work? Hwangjan sighed. Wang Quan handles the house and the kid all day. It's not easy. Can't you show a little more appreciation for his hard work? Ruyan's gaze swept over me. It was sharp and filled with suspicion. Did he go running to you to complain? No such thing, I said quickly, trying to diffuse the situation. Mom just figured it out herself. Figured it out? Hwangjan stood her ground. Your face is practically frozen. Anyone can see it. It's New Year's Eve, and you're wearing a face like a bill collector. Someone would think you were owed something. Liu Hongyuan cleared his throat. All right, let's just eat in peace. Once Hwangjan starts talking, it's hard to shut her up. Wang Quan, as someone who's been through it all, let me tell you something. A man needs to have a broad mind. Don't get all worked up over trivial little things. Ruyan keeps a tight leash on you because she actually cares about you. If she really didn't give a damn, the world could be ending, and she wouldn't even lift an eyebrow. I nodded along like a bobblehead. You're right, Mom. Exactly. So stop talking back to her. She's walking on thin ice at the office every day, and then she has to come home and deal with your moods. It's exhausting. Yes. Also, if money is tight, just come to me. I'll slide you some cash on the side. Don't let Ruyan find out. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Mom, it's really not about the money. Then, what else could it be? Liu Ruyan abruptly stood up. She dropped a cold remark. I'm full. Help yourselves. Before the words even landed, she had already vanished into the bedroom. Hwangjan froze. That girl's temper is getting out of hand. Liu Hongyuan frowned deeply. Would it kill you to talk a little less? I was only doing it for their own good. Nhi, however, was quick to act. She hopped off her chair. I'll go comfort Mommy. The little munchkin rolled like a ball, straight into the bedroom, leaving us 3 adults staring at the leftovers. In a dead, awkward silence. About 5 minutes later, the bedroom door opened again. Liu Ruyan stood in the doorway, her sharp gaze locking onto me. Gu Wangchuan, get in here. Her tone sounded exactly like a CEO summoning a low-level clerk who'd screwed up. under the watchful eyes of my in-laws. I dragged my weak legs into the room. The door slammed shut, cutting us off from the outside world. Nhi was hugging her doll, lying on the bed. Her big, bright eyes were sparkling with excitement. Total little drama queen. Liu Ruyan stood by the bed with her arms crossed. "Come here," she commanded. I shuffled over. Seeing her hand rise, I instinctively flinched, but she only pressed her fingertips against my chest, trailing up to tilt my chin upward, forcing me to look her in the eye. "Gu Wangshuan." She lowered her voice. Every word felt like it was whispered right into my ear. "Are you seriously hell-bent on this today? Do you really want to turn everything upside down? I'm not throwing a fit. Just what?" Finally grew a spine, wanting to escape my control. I grit my teeth and stayed silent. A smirk tugged at her lips. A chilling shadow of a smile. "I'll give you this chance to stand up for yourself, right in front of Nhi. Tell me, with your own mouth, are you truly 100% committed to leaving me?" I turned to look at Nhi. The little girl tilted her head. Her expression looked as if she'd seen right through all the adult hypocrisy. All those heartless words got stuck in my throat. Not a single word would come out. "Cat got your tongue." Liu Ruyan leaned in, her breath practically tangling with mine. "Gu Wanghuan, do you know what I despise most about you?" She paused, her tone dripping with contempt. "It's this duality of yours. You want your pride, but you can't bear to lose your comfort. You want to be tough, but you're just a pathetic coward. It's annoying." "I am not." "You are." She suddenly grabbed my collar, pulling me down, to whisper in my ear, "If you really want to leave, we can sign the papers right now. Walk away with nothing. The kid stays with me. You pay child support every month like clockwork. Can a loser like you actually afford those terms?" Her warm breath on my ear felt almost flirtatious, but the words were cold as ice. "Liu Ruyan, don't think I can't." I took a breath to fire back, but Nhi soft voice came from the bed. "Mommy, don't bully Daddy." Liu Ruyan let go and looked back. "I'm bullying him." "Yeah." Nhi sat up, hugging her doll. "Daddy looks like he's about to cry." "I do not." "Don't be scared, Daddy." Nhi gestured for me to come over, acting like a little adult. "Come here. I've got your back." Liu Ruyan looked at me, a hint of mockery in her eyes. "See that? Even your daughter can tell. You were born to be a punching bag." A flash of anger surged from my heart, not at her, but at my own pathetic self. Gu Wangquan, a full-grown man, cornered and broken down by a woman in a bedroom, to the point where even a 3-year-old thinks I'm being mistreated. Am I still even a man? Liu Ruyan, you just have to keep pushing, don't you? I stepped back to create some distance, my voice getting louder. She raised an eyebrow. "I'm pushing? So what? You're intentionally belittling me in front of the kid. You just want to see me crawl back and apologize, right? I want to see you admit you're a coward." She gave a series of cold laughs. "Gu Wangshuan, tell me honestly, in these 3 years, when have I ever let you lose face in front of the child? You're the one starting drama about divorce today. You're the one making a scene. How am I the one pushing? If you want to leave, fine. The offer is on the table. Do you have the guts to take it?" Seeing me go silent, she let out a cold snort. "If you can't handle it, then shut up." She turned to walk away, but for some reason I reached out and grabbed her wrist. She stopped in her tracks. When she looked back at me, I actually caught a glimpse of deep weariness behind those usually sharp eyes. It wasn't anger or disdain. It was a bone-chilling exhaustion. My throat tightened. Every argument I had prepared vanished instantly. Let go, she snapped coldly. I held on tight and wouldn't let go. She struggled for a bit to no avail. Her voice went ice cold. Gu Wang Chuan. I said, let go. I stubbornly held the stalemate. A bizarre silence filled the room. Then, Niangxia's clear voice rang out again. Daddy, are you and Mommy about to play kiss-kiss? Liu Ruyan and I both froze, as if we'd been petrified. That's how it always happens on TV. The little one started analyzing like a pro. The boy and girl have a fight. The boy grabs the girl's hand so she can't run. And then one kiss makes everything better. The explosive tension was instantly deflated by this childish innocence. Liu Ruyan yanked her hand away and walked over. She picked up Niangxia. Let's go. Go watch TV with Grandma. But Daddy hasn't kissed you yet. He's not going to. Why? Because he doesn't have the balls. Staring at her back, I blurted out. Liu Ruyan. She stopped but didn't look back. It's not that I don't have the balls. My voice was deep. Just what? Did I feel like I wasn't in her league? Did 3 years of living under her roof dull my edges? Or was I just really over it? I couldn't even give myself a straight answer. She waited a few seconds, and when I didn't finish, she walked out the door. I stood there alone. I heard He Wanjin asking something in the living room. Liu Ruyan just replied calmly, you guys watch TV with Niangxia. I need to talk to him about something private. A moment later, Liu Ruyan came back. She reached back and clicked the lock on the door. Now, the cramped space belonged only to the two of us. She leaned back against the door, her heavy gaze fixed intently on me. I stood at the foot of the bed, completely lost. Faint explosions of fireworks drifted in from outside. The colorful glow seeped through the cracks in the curtains, casting flickering, vanishing shadows across her face. Gu Wangquan, she finally spoke, her tone a fraction softer than before. What is it that your heart is actually craving? My mouth opened, but my mind was a total blank. Freedom. But the material comfort and lifestyle she provided had long surpassed the boundaries of mere freedom. Dignity? Yet, in these 3 years, despite her private strictness, she had never once let me lose face in public. I want to be a normal man. But what is normal? Squeezing onto the subway during morning rush hour, bleeding myself dry for performance reviews, having my spine bent by a mortgage. Is that the kind of dignity I actually want? I don't know. I sat down, defeated. She watched me, and let out a long heavy sigh. Then, she slowly walked toward me, her cool fingers gently brushing against my cheek. Gu Wangquan, have you always felt that I keep such a tight leash on you? Because I look down on you deep in my heart. I remained silent. I'm afraid you'll leave. A shock went through my whole body. She pulled her hand back, her eyes downcast, her voice carrying a barely perceptible tremor. Years ago, my dad almost abandoned us for another woman. When my mom was pregnant with me, he didn't exactly stick to his principles, even though that woman eventually got caught because of her insatiable greed, and he came crawling back like a prodigal son. My mom never truly let it go her whole life. I had never heard these family secrets before. So, she looked up again, her eyes full of a desperate obsession. I'm terrified. I always feel like the moment I loosen my grip, you'll vanish from my sight forever. I don't dare give you too much freedom. I'm afraid that once you see the vast world out there, you won't want to come back to this home. I'm afraid that when Niangxia grows up, I won't know how to tell her where her daddy went. Do you think I'm being ridiculous? She gave a small laugh, a bitter one. The heir to the Liu Corporation, who never loses at the negotiation table, spending every day at home worrying her husband will run away. I suddenly reached out and pulled her into a hug. She stiffened for a second, then slowly relaxed, burying her face in my chest. I'm not running, I said. And what was that talk about divorce earlier? I was just being a jerk. She looked up at me, her eyes shimmering with tears. But none fell. Gu Wang Quan, if you ever dare run, she whispered, I'll break your legs. I laughed. That brutal. Try me. I wouldn't dare. She glared at me, but that look had zero intimidation left in it. I leaned down and kissed her. She didn't dodge. Outside, the fireworks exploded, lighting up half the room. I was about to go in for another kiss when someone suddenly started pounding on the door. Daddy! Mommy! Nyanxia's voice had incredible range. Are you guys done yet? Grandma says it's time for the big fireworks. Liu Ruyan pulled out of my arms, smoothed her hair, and went to open the door. When the door opened, Nyanxia was standing there, her little face tilted up as she inspected us. Did you kiss? Liu Ruyan's face turned a slight shade of pink. Kids shouldn't ask so many questions. So you did kiss. The little munchkin made her final judgment. Then she gestured for me. Daddy, come here. I need to tell you a secret. I crouched down. What is it? She leaned into my ear, speaking in a voice she thought was quiet, but that everyone could actually hear. Next time Mommy is mean to you, just kiss her. It works every time. Liu Ruyan and he, Wanjin, burst out, laughing in the living room. I picked up Nyanxia and headed out. As I passed Liu Ruyan, she gave my waist a sharp pinch. It really stung, but I didn't flinch. The New Year's dinner continued. The Spring Festival Gala was on TV. Nyanxia was curled up in my lap, watching cartoons. And he, Wanjin, and Liu Hongguan were on the balcony, watching the fireworks. Liu Ruyan sat beside me, her hand resting on my leg, absently giving it little squeezes. I looked down at her. She didn't look up, but the corner of her mouth curved up. What are you looking at? I'm looking at you. Am I that pretty? Very. She finally looked up, shooting me a glance. Then who was it that said they wanted a divorce? I was being dumb. Are you gonna do it again? She pinched my leg again. Next time, I leaned into her ear and lowered my voice. Next time, I'm skipping the talk and going straight for the kiss. Her ears turned red. She stood up. I'm going to go get the soup. Watching her walk away, I suddenly felt my wings were strong. Strong enough for what? This is actually pretty great. More fireworks exploded outside. Nyanxia shouted from my lap, Daddy, look! So pretty! I looked up at the sky, full of light. My phone buzzed. I pulled it out to check. It was a WeChat message from Liu Ruyan. Once Nyanxia is asleep tonight, let's have a real talk about how you're going to kiss me. I stared at the screen and thought, I could probably do another 3 years of this. 9:47 p.m. Nyanxia finally fell asleep. I lay beside her toddler bed, half my body completely numb. I didn't dare move an inch. The little princess demanded a bedtime story, and after 3, she still wouldn't sleep. In the end, I had to improvise a story about a flying elephant to get her to drift off. The price was her using my arm as a pillow for the last half hour. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I carefully pulled my arm out. Nyanxia rolled over, muttering, Elephant, don't run away. Before falling back into a deep sleep, I let out a long breath and checked my phone. Liu Ruyan. Is she asleep? Just now. Her reply was immediate. Come here. I stared at those 2 words, my heart skipping half a beat. She said, come here. Not come to the bedroom. Not come here for a second. Just come here. Simple, direct, and non-negotiable. Exactly how she orders me to do everything else. But tonight, this come here felt different. I stuffed my phone back in my pocket and stood up as quietly as I could. I tucked Nyanxia in and dimmed the nightlight to its lowest setting. The little one was sprawled out, still clutching her doll. She named it Fatty Tiger herself because she thought it looked like a tiger that had eaten too much. I walked out of the room and pulled the door shut softly. The living room lights were off, with only the lingering fireworks flashing outside the window. The guest room where He Wanjin and Liu Hongyawan were staying was dark. They must be asleep too. The whole house was silent, save for the ticking of the clock on the wall. I reached the master bedroom. The door was slightly ajar, spilling a warm golden light into the hallway. I pushed it open. The moment I did, I caught the scent of her usual perfume. Not the sharp one she wears for work, but her nighttime scent, softer and warmer. I can never remember the name, intimacy or something. Either way, it always makes it hard for me to focus. Liu Ruyan was leaning back against the headboard. She had a tablet in her hand, looking like she was replying to emails. She'd changed into pajamas, a deep burgundy silk that made her skin look like it was glowing. Her hair was down, cascading over her shoulders, with a few stray strands resting against her collarbone. She spared me a glance before looking back at her screen. Locked the door. I reached back and clicked the lock. Standing by the bed, I suddenly felt a bit awkward. Usually, I just walk in and crash. What are you standing there for? Still not looking up, she added. Come sit. I rounded the bed and sat down. She kept scrolling on the tablet, her fingers flying across the glass, as if she were handling some high-stakes document. I stared at her profile, waiting for her to speak. 2 minutes passed. Complete silence. I couldn't take it. I thought you said we were going to talk. Talk about what? She set the tablet down and finally turned to face me. I couldn't read her expression. Not harsh, but not exactly gentle either. It was just imposing. Gu Wangchuan, she spoke up. Those things you said in the living room today, did you really mean them? I blinked, realizing she was referring to the divorce talk. No, I denied immediately. I was just being a hothead. Being a hothead makes you say something like that. Do you have any idea how it felt when I heard the word divorce? I shut my mouth. She reached out and poked my chest with her fingertip. It felt like being stabbed. Ruyan, let me finish. She pulled her hand back. I've had everything I ever wanted since I was a kid. I don't even blink when facing the most difficult opponents at work. But when you said those words today, I actually panicked. Her voice was flat, no inflection at all. But that flatness made my chest feel tight. At that moment, I found myself wondering. She continued, if I really am being too hard on you, if you truly can't stand it, if you really don't want to be with me anymore, I do. I took her hand. I really do. She looked at me, not pulling away, but not squeezing back either. Then why did you say it? I just assumed. Just what? I took a deep breath. I just felt suffocated. She arched an eyebrow. Suffocated? Yes, since we're laying it all out. I'm not going to hold back. It's been 3 years. I have to report when I go out. I have to apply to spend money. I need your approval to make friends. You choose my clothes. You set the menu for what we eat. Ruyan, I'm your husband, not your son. She fell silent for a few seconds. Then she said, just that, and that's not enough. She shook her head. Gu Wangchuan, think for yourself. Why do I manage all those things? Because you don't trust me. True. But that's not the whole story. She pulled her hand back and leaned back. I don't trust you because I'm afraid you'll run. But why am I afraid of that? Because I'm a loser. No, that's only a part of it. Then what else is there? She looked at me and suddenly smirked. You really don't know. Know what? Have you seen your own face lately? I blinked. She reached out and tilted my chin, turning my face toward her. Do you have any idea how many people would be staring if I just let you walk around out there? The first time I saw you, you just scratched my car. You were pale as a sheet from fear. I was originally going to rip into you, but then you looked up at me, and the words just died in my throat. She pulled her hand back. I thought, whatever. He's too handsome to yell at. I couldn't help but laugh. So you were just shallow. Yes, she said, totally deadpan. I was completely shallow. It's not. Wait, that's not what. Did you think someone like me, Liu Ruyan, would choose a stay-at-home husband for any other reason? I opened my mouth, but no words came out. She continued, I choose your clothes because you look best in casual gear. I don't want to see you in a suit like everyone else. I manage your outings because people can't stop staring the moment you step outside. I manage your friends because every single one of them is just looking for a handout from you. Remember that guy who borrowed 30 grand and never paid it back? What was his name? She cut me off. Wang something. Are you still in touch with him? I stayed silent. Gu Wangchuan. Her voice softened. I manage you because I care about you. It's not because I look down on you. It's because I see things too clearly. I'm afraid someone will take you away. I looked at her, and all that pent-up frustration just evaporated. So, could you maybe loosen up a little? I tested the waters. Just a tiny bit. She thought about it. Fine. My eyes lit up. Really? Really? She nodded. Starting tomorrow. You don't have to report anymore. Seriously. Just send me a quick WeChat message to let me know. How is that any different from reporting? She saw my expression and laughed. What? Not happy with that? It's not that I'm not happy. I want complete freedom. She arched an eyebrow. Gu Wangchuan, what kind of freedom do you want? Go wherever I want. See whoever I want. Do whatever I want. Basically, yeah. She nodded, reached for her phone, tapped a few times, and handed it to me. I took it, and looked. It was her bank transfer history. Do you know how much you spent last month? I looked at the number on the screen, and swallowed hard. 23. I just bought a few clothes. Some toys, for Niangxia, treated some old friends to a meal. How did it add up to that much? And that's not even counting household expenses. That's just your personal spending, she said. Gu Wangquan, if you went out and got a job right now, how much do you think you'd make in a month? I'm not complaining about the money. She took the phone back. I just want you to understand that your so-called freedom has a price. I'm the one providing the safety net for your current life. If you want to fly, I won't stop you. But you should check if your wings are actually strong enough first. I stayed silent. It was the truth. Harsh, but true. Of course. Her tone softened again. You can go out and work. I never stopped you. You're the one who chose to stay home with the kid. That's because why? Because I wanted to be there as she grew up. My dad worked overtime every day, I said. I barely saw him a few times a year. I didn't want that for Niangxia. She looked at me, and her eyes finally softened completely. She reached out and stroked my face. You chose this path, so walk it. If you feel stifled, tell me. We'll figure it out together. But don't go throwing the divorce card around. Okay. I nodded. Okay. She smiled. That smile completely cleared away the last of the gloom in my chest. The atmosphere suddenly shifted. I don't know if she leaned in a bit or if I moved closer. Either way, the space between us was suddenly gone. Her scent was even clearer now. Ruyan, I started, my voice a little husky. You said something earlier about talking about the kiss. She arched an eyebrow. Eager, are we? It's not. It's just what? I stopped talking and just leaned down to kiss her. She didn't pull away. Her hands came up to wrap around my neck. This kiss was different from our usual ones. Usually they're just quick good morning or good night pecks, Or maybe a little moment of tenderness when Nhi wasn't around. But today, this one lasted a while. So long that I was almost out of breath when we finally broke apart. She looked at me, her eyes shimmering with a watery light. I couldn't tell if it was from holding her breath or something else. Gu Wangquan, she whispered. Do you know why I called you in here tonight? My heart skipped a beat. Why? She didn't answer. Instead, she reached out and dimmed the bedside lamp. Then she leaned in close, her lips brushing against my ear. You tell me. My breath hitched. But the next second she said, Nhi just fell asleep. If she wakes up, she'll come looking for us. So, tonight's a no-go. I stared at her, unsure if she was teasing or being serious. Her expression was dead serious. Then, what? Then why did you even call me here? She smirked and leaned back. I called you here to set the record straight and to make sure you're really not planning to run away. I'm not running. Prove it. How? She thought for a moment, then suddenly pushed me back onto the bed. She straddled me, looking down from her position of power. Gu Wangquan, she said, if you ever dare run, I'll. Before she could finish, there was a sudden pounding on the door. Daddy! Mommy! Nhi's voice was loud and clear. You could hear the panic even through the door. Ruyan and I both froze instantly. Daddy! Mommy! Open the door! Fatty Tiger fell under the bed. Ruyan looked down at me, her eyes flashing with a mix of emotions. I couldn't help but burst out laughing. She glared at me, climbed off, straightened her silk pajamas and went to the door. When the door opened, Nhi was standing there in her little PJs, clutching her doll. Her face was scrunched up in distress. Fatty Tiger fell and I can't reach him. Ruyan took a deep breath. Wait here. Mommy will get it for you. She shot a look back at me, a look that clearly said, to be continued. I lay there staring at the ceiling, thinking that the little traitor certainly has impeccable timing for a draft. By the time we sorted out the Fatty Tiger situation, it was nearly 11 p.m. Nhi insisted I retell the story about the flying elephant. When it was done, she wouldn't let go of the doll. It took both me and Ruyan taking turns to finally coax her back to sleep. When we left the nursery, Ruyan looked at me, still up for it. I looked at my watch, then back at her. Her face was a mask of CEO neutrality, but there was a trace of a smile in her eyes. I said, back in the bedroom, the door had barely locked when she pinned me against it. Gu Wangquan. She leaned in close. Did you do that on purpose tonight? Do what on purpose? Waking Nhi up on purpose. I did no such thing. She studied me for a few seconds, then smirked. I doubt you'd have the guts anyway. I was about to protest when she suddenly kissed me. This one was way more aggressive than before. I reached out and wrapped my hands around her waist. That silk pajama set was so slippery. My hands almost lost their grip. After God knows how long, we broke apart. My breathing was heavy. Ruyan, don't talk. She started leading me toward the bed. Just as we reached it, my phone suddenly started ringing. Not a WeChat ping. An actual call. Who's calling at this hour? I pulled it out to check. Caller ID. Prince. Ruyan saw it, too. Her brow furrowed. That friend who borrowed 30 grand. I felt a bit guilty. But a call this late meant trouble. Pick it up. I answered before I could even say hello. Prince's loud voice came blasting through. Wangquan. Buddy. Help. Ruyan stood there with her arms crossed, watching me coldly. What happened? I asked, pushing through the awkwardness. I got into a car accident. I'm at the police station. Can you come down here? I looked at Ruyan. She was expressionless. Prince, listen right now. I'm begging you, man. I've got no other choice. The other guy wants 30-0 for a settlement. I don't have it. Lend me 30K. I'll pay you back tomorrow, I swear. I went silent for 2 seconds. Which station? I hung up. I looked at Ruyan. She still had that look. Hard to tell if she was angry. Go, she said. I was stunned. You're letting me go? Yeah. Really? She turned, grabbed my coat from the closet, and handed it to me. He wants 30K. Right. I'll transfer it to you. Go deal with it. And while you're at it, get that other 30K back too. I took the coat, hardly believing it. You're not mad. She looked at me, and suddenly smiled. Gu Wang Quan. I already said it. From now on you don't need to report when you go out. Does that only count starting tomorrow? Well, it's past 11 now. What's wrong with 11 p.m.? She smirked. You're 27, not 17. I trust you to handle yourself this late. But one thing. What? Come straight back when it's done? Don't go out drinking with him. I nodded. And, she added, that original 30K, he pays up today. If he doesn't pay, don't bother coming back. I laughed. That brutal. It's not about being brutal. She reached out and straightened my collar. It's about letting him know that when you borrow from Lu Ruyan's man, it's not a free ride. I looked at her, a surge of emotion hitting me. Ruyan, thanks. She was taken aback for a second, then looked away. Enough with the talk. Just hurry back. I leaned down and kissed her. She didn't dodge. Once I was dressed and ready, she called out to me at the door. Gu Wangshuan. I looked back. She was standing in the foyer, bathed in the warm yellow light. That burgundy silk pajama set made her look a lot softer. Drive carefully, she said. I nodded. Before the elevator doors closed, I saw her still standing there. It was already midnight when I got to the station. Prince was crouched in the hallway, looking a mess. He nearly burst into tears when he saw me. Wang Chuan, you actually came. I looked at him. My brow furrowed. What happened? I was drink driving and hit someone's car. Drink driving. My voice rose. Are you insane? I know. I messed up. He grabbed my arm. They want 30-0 to settle. Otherwise, they're filing charges. Wang Quan, you've got to help me. I can't have a criminal record. I looked at him, suddenly remembering Ryuan's words. Every single one of them is just looking for a handout. Prince, I said, pushing his hand away. That other 30K, when are you paying it back? He was taken aback. Look at the situation. You're bringing that up now? Yes, I said, looking him in the eye. You pay that 30K back today, and I'll front the other 30K for you. If you don't, I'm out. Guan Quan, you, just because I'm a stay-at-home husbandy, living off my wife, you think my money isn't real money. That original 30K I cut him off was my allowance that I saved up for half a year. You borrowed it like it was nothing, and dodged me for just as long. Prince, we've known each other a long time. Is this really how you treat a friend? His mouth opened, but no words came out. A few seconds later, he pulled out his phone. Fine, I'll pay it. I'm paying right now. After the transfer, I fronted the other 30K for him. By the time everything was settled, it was nearly 2 a.m. As we walked out of the station, Prince caught up to me. Wang Xuan, thanks for today. And for that 30 grand, forget about it. Just take it as a lesson learned. Stay away from the booze from now on. If anything happens, call me. Will you be okay going back? Your wife isn't mad, is she? I shot him a look, suddenly wanting to laugh. Mad? If Liu Ruyan were actually mad, he'd be lying in a hospital bed by now. She's fine. She's the one who let me come. Prince blinked, staring at me with a complicated expression. Wang Xuan, you've got the luck of the gods. I just smiled and didn't say anything. On the drive home, I couldn't stop thinking about what she'd said. I manage you because I care about you. I used to think her tight leash meant she looked down on me. Now I'm thinking maybe I was just being petty. If she really didn't respect me, she never would have chosen me. If I were just an ornament to her, she wouldn't care who I hung out with, or what I wore. She was just terrified of losing me. The story about her father. It's been haunting her for a lifetime. Back at the house, I opened the door as quietly as possible. The living room lights were on. Liu Ruyan was leaning back on the sofa, fast asleep under a blanket. The TV was still on, playing some late-night movie. With the volume turned all the way down, I crouched down beside her and watched her sleep. Her long eyelashes cast faint shadows against her skin. Her lips were slightly pursed. I wondered what she was dreaming about. In her sleep, she didn't seem so cold anymore. "Ruyan," I whispered. No response. I reached out to carry her to the bedroom. The second I touched her, her eyes snapped open. For a split second, she looked dazed and confused, but she cleared her head quickly. "You're back?" She sat up, the blanket sliding down. "Is it handled? Got the money back?" "Every cent," she nodded, and let out a yawn. "Let's go to bed then." She stood up and headed for the bedroom. I followed her, suddenly reaching out to hug her from behind. She stiffened. "What? Thanks. For what?" "For letting me go handle it." She was quiet for a few seconds, then gently patted my hand. "Go, Wangshuan. You're my husband, not my prisoner. I don't manage you to lock you up. I do it because I don't want anything to happen to you." I buried my face in her hair. "Don't talk. In the future." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Just talk to me. Don't keep things bottled up. If you break, I'll just have to replace you." I couldn't help but laugh. "Replace me? Could you actually?" She turned around to look at me, reaching up to pinch my cheek. "No, so don't give me a reason to try." I leaned down and kissed her. She didn't dodge. She wrapped her arms around my neck and kissed me back. Finally, no one was there to interrupt us. I don't even remember how we made it into the bedroom. I just know the curtains weren't closed properly. The fireworks were still flashing outside, casting flickering light across her face. It made her look less cold. "Gu Wangquan," she said, her voice husky. "You almost ran away today." "I didn't. Will you try it again?" "Never." She looked at me, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "If you ever dare run," she whispered, "I'll stuff Niangxia's fatty tiger under your covers." I laughed. "That brutal. I've got worse. Wanna find out?" I leaned down and whispered in her ear. "Try me." Fireworks exploded outside, lighting up half the room. She reached out and clicked off the bedside lamp. In the darkness, her voice was barely a breath. "Gu Wangquan? Happy New Year." "Happy New Year." She didn't say anything else, just snuggled closer into my arms. Holding her, I suddenly felt like these last 3 years were worth it. God knows how long passed. I was drifting off when my phone buzzed. I squinted at the screen. A WeChat message. "He Wanjin. Wangshuan. Mom can't sleep. I wanted to talk to you about something. Tomorrow morning. Your father and I want to talk to you guys about Niangxia." I froze, looking down at the sleeping Ruyan in my arms. "What about Niangxia?" I replied. "Okay, Mom. What time?" "Tomorrow. He Wanjin. Whenever you wake up. Around 9. I stared at the message, getting a bad feeling. He Wanjin usually just blurted things out. She never said she wanted to talk. When she did, it was never good news. The last time she wanted to talk, she was pressuring us for a second kid. The time before that, she was asking if I was seeing someone else. As I was thinking, the phone buzzed again. "He Wanjin, don't tell Ruyan. Mom wants to talk to you first." "Great. It's something big." I looked down at Ruyan. She was deep in sleep, totally unaware of what tomorrow had in store for us. More fireworks exploded, holding her. I suddenly couldn't sleep. What about Niangxia? Are they gonna push for another baby? No, she wouldn't need to talk to me alone for that. What then? I racked my brain but got nowhere. Eventually, I just told myself that I'd find out in the morning. Worst case scenario, I get a lecture. I've had plenty of those in the last 3 years. Ruyan shifted in my arms, mumbled something, and fell back to sleep. I patted her back gently. Close my eyes. Whatever it is, it can wait. Tonight, let's just enjoy the holiday. 8:55 a.m. I was sitting at the breakfast table, my heart racing like I'd committed a crime. Ruyan was in the kitchen warming milk. Niangxia was on my lap, attacking a steamed bun. He Wanjin and Liu Hongyuan were opposite us, one smiling, the other totally stony-faced. The table was loaded with food, but no one was eating much. The vibe was off. Even the little one felt it. She was unusually quiet with her bun, her eyes darting from one person to the next. "Mom," Ruyan said, coming out with the milk. "You said you wanted to talk. What about?" He Wanjin glanced at me. My stomach did a somersault. That WeChat message was still sitting on my phone. "Don't tell Ruyan. Mom wants to talk to you first." But I hadn't had a chance to speak to her alone. The second I woke up, Ruyan was awake too. Then Niangxia burst in. And then we were all sitting here. He Wanjin cleared her throat. "Well, your father and I were talking last night. We have an idea and wanted your thoughts." Ruyan sat down, took a sip of her milk, and said, "Is it about Niangxia?" I gripped my fork tighter. Ruyan glanced at me, before looking back at her mother. "What about her?" "Well, she's 3 now," He Wanjin said with a gentle smile. "She'll be starting preschool soon." I was thinking about her name. Her name. Ruyan set her milk down. Liu Niangxia. "It's a fine name." "It is," He Wanjin said. "But I think, since she's a child of this family, and will inherit the business one day." The surname. Ruyan's face darkened. My heart skipped a beat. "The surname is fine," He Wanjin continued, "but having Nian in her name, it always sounds like she's longing for someone." I was thinking, how about we change it to Lu Yuxia? Simple and elegant. I was stunned. Just that? A name change. No baby pressure. No interrogation. I almost let out a sigh of relief right there. But the look on Liu Ruyan's face told me it wasn't that simple. "Mom," her voice dropped, "if you have something to say, just say it." The smile on He Wanjin's face faltered for a second. Then she glanced at Liu Hongyuan. Liu Hongyuan set down his chopsticks and spoke. "Ruyan, what your mother means is, since Niangxia is a Liu, she belongs to the Liu family from now on. But you're the one who picked the name Niangxia. You said it's because you always thought of summer when you were pregnant. But to outsiders who don't know, they might think you're longing for someone else." I realized what he was getting at. Niangxia, longing for someone not named Wang Chuan, because my name has Quan in it, not "Co Dad," I started to explain. Liu Hongyuan raised a hand to cut me off. "Wang Chuan, I know your name has Huan and not Sia, but the public doesn't. All they know is this child is a Liu. But the name implies a longing. Longing for what? If word gets out, it won't sound good." "Word from who?" Liu Ruyan stood up. "Who would be bored enough to spread rumors about that?" "Ruyan, sit down," He Wanjin urged. Liu Ruyan didn't sit. She just stood there, looking down at her parents. "I chose Niangxia's name. It was summer when I carried her. I looked forward to her birth every single day. So I called her Longing. It has nothing to do with Jiu Wangchuan, and even less to do with outsiders." What is this really about? He Wanjin and Liu Hongyuan shared a look. Then He Wanjin sighed. "Ruya, I'll be honest with you. It's not about the name. It's about the lineage." I blinked. Lineage, Niangxia being a Lu is a settled fact. But, He Wanjin said, your father's point is, since Niangxia is a Liu, and the heir to the Liu family, then the Jiu side. She looked at me. I understood. They wanted to completely sever Niangxia's ties to the Jiu family. Mom, I spoke up, my voice steadier than I expected. My parents passed away long ago. There's no one left on the Jiu side. Still, you're a Jiu. He Wanjin said. When Niangxia grows up, and people ask why her father is a Ji, while she is a Liu. So what? Liu Ruyan's voice turned icy. Plenty of kids take their mother's name now. What's the issue? The issue, Liu Hongyuan said, is that the Liu family is different. Niangxia will take over the Liu Corporation one day. Her identity must be crystal clear. Outsiders won't care who her father is. They'll only care about her surname. She's a Liu, which means she's Liu property, if she still has entanglements with the Jiu side. What entanglements? I stood up. Dad, my parents are gone. The only Gus left are a few distant relatives I don't even see once a year. What entanglements could she possibly have with them? Liu Hongyuan looked at me, his gaze the same as it was 3 years ago, calculating, evaluating merchandise. Wang Xuan, he said, I'm not attacking you. I'm doing this for Niangxia's sake. Think about it. When she's negotiating business in the future, and someone asks, CEO, Liu, what does your father do? What is she supposed to say? That her dad is a stay-at-home husband. That he's alive in son-in-law. I felt my face flush. Liu Rian slammed her hand on the table. Dad? Niangxia jumped in fright. Her bun fell onto the table, and her lip began to quiver. I quickly leaned down to pick her up. It's okay. It's okay. Mommy's not mad at you. Niangxia buried her head in my shoulder and whispered, Daddy, is Grandpa bullying you? I just patted her back and said nothing. Liu Ruyan walked around the table to stand beside me facing her parents. What are you two really trying to say? Just say it. Stop playing games. He Wanjin stood up, too, grabbing Liu Hongyuan's arm. Hongyuan, that's enough. Liu Hongyuan shook her off and looked at us. Fine, I'll be direct. My point is, Niangxia should have no further connection to the Jiu side. She is a Liu, a child of this house. As for Wang Xuan, he looked at me. I held Niangxia and waited for the blow. Wang Xuan, you've been in this house for 3 years. I haven't made it hard on you, but you need to understand. You are a live-in husband. Do you know what that means? It means you are also part of the Liu family now. Your old name doesn't matter. Your future name doesn't matter. What matters is that you know your place. My grip on Niangxia tightened. My place. I repeated. Liu Hongyuan said, you are Niangxia's father. No one can change that. But you must be clear. Niangxia is the Liu heir, not the Jiu heir. Her future is for the Liu family to decide. You just stay in line. The air went still for a few seconds. Niangxia whispered in my ear, Daddy, what does Grandpa mean? I didn't answer. Liu Ruyan suddenly reached out and took Niangxia from my arms, handing her to her mother. Take Niangxia to her room. He Wanjin took her, hesitating. Go, Liu Ruyan said. He Wanjin took Niangxia away. That left just the 3 of us. Liu Ruyan looked at her father. Every word was measured. Do you have any idea what you just said? Liu Hongyuan frowned. Of course I do. No, you don't. Liu Ruyan took a step forward. You want Niangxia to sever ties with the Jiu family? Fine. There's barely anyone left anyway. But you tell Wang Xiwan to know his place. What is his place? He's Niangxia's father. He's your son-in-law. He's my husband. What other place is there? Ruyan, don't get excited. I'm not excited. Her voice was level. I just want you to be clear. What place are you trying to put him in? The live-in husband. The boy toy who's beneath the Liu family. Liu Hongyuan's face darkened. I never said he was beneath us. That's exactly what your words meant. Liu Ruyan stared at him. What does stay in line mean? He's Niangxia's father. Why should he just stay in line? Because Niangxia is a Liu. So what if she's a Liu? Does being a Liu make her not his daughter? Liu Hongyuan took a deep breath. Ruyan, will you just listen to me for once? Go on. Liu Hongyuan paused. I'm worried about future trouble. The Gus might be gone, but Wang Xuan has relatives, doesn't he? Distant ones are still relatives. What if they start using Niangxia's name one day? What if they come looking for money, or connections through her? What then? I spoke up. Dad, those relatives? It's been 3 years. Have you ever seen them come looking for me? Liu Hongyuan didn't answer. I continued. That's because I have zero contact with them. When my parents passed, did they help? No. When I married into this family, did they have anything good to say? No. I cut them off long ago. Liu Hongyuan looked at me, his gaze a bit more complex now. So, I went on, the things you're worried about won't happen. Liu Hongyuan was silent for a while. Then he said, Wang Xuan, I'm not attacking you personally. I know. You're doing it for Niangxia. I know. But Dad, I looked at him. What you just said, it really hurt. Liu Hongyuan stayed silent. Liu Ruyan walked over to me and took my hand. Her hand was very cold. She spoke up. I'm making this clear today. Niangxia is my daughter. Wang Xuan is my husband. The 3 of us are a single unit in this house. You and Mom are our parent. We respect you. But you cannot use Niangxia's business to suppress him. Liu Hongyuan's expression shifted. How did I suppress him? What you said just now was exactly that. Liu Ruyan continued, telling him to know his place. He knows his place perfectly well. He doesn't need your reminder. If you're not clear on it, I'll tell you right now. He is my husband. Niangxia is his daughter. His word carries as much weight in this house as mine does. I looked at Liu Ruyan, feeling a surge of emotion. Liu Hongyuan stared at her for a long time without a word. After a good while, he let out a sigh. Fine. Consider it my meddling. He turned to walk toward the guest room. Halfway there, he stopped and looked back at me. Wang Xuan, forget what I just said. I gave a nod. He went into the guest room. The door shut, leaving just me and Liu Ruyan in the living room. She let go of my hand and turned to look at me. I couldn't quite read the look in her eyes. Rian. She suddenly reached out and hugged me. I was taken aback for a second. Then, I hugged her back. She buried her face in my chest. Her voice muffled. Don't take it to heart. It's fine. My dad is all bark and no bite. He didn't mean to. I know. She looked up at me. Do you really? I looked at her and suddenly smiled. Liu Ruyan, are you afraid I'll run? She glared at me. I'm asking you a question. I'm not running. I said, I didn't run when your dad said those things. So I'm certainly not running now. She looked at me, her eyes watery. But she didn't let a tear fall. Wang Xuan, If you ever dare run, I'll stuff Niangxia's fatty tiger under your covers. I finished the sentence. I know. She finally laughed. That laugh completely cleared the last bit of gloom from my heart. When He Wanjin carried Niangxia out of the room, Rian and I were still hugging. Ahem. He Wanjin cleared her throat. We quickly broke apart. Niangxia wiggled out of He Wanjin's arms, pattered over to us, and tilted her little face up to look at us. Daddy, Mommy, are you doing kisses again? Liu Ruyan's face turned slightly pink. No. Why were you hugging then? Because, Liu Ruyan was at a loss for words. I crouched down and looked at Nianxia. Because Grandpa was a bit mean to Daddy, and Mommy was comforting Daddy. Nianxia's little brow furrowed. Why was Grandpa mean to you? Because Grandpa is worried about some things. What things? Grown-up things. Nianxia thought for a moment, then suddenly turned and pattered over to the guest room door, pounding on a T. Grandpa, come out. The door opened, and Lu Hongyuan looked down at her. What is it? You're not allowed to bully my daddy. Nianxia looked up with her hands on her hips. He's my daddy. If you bully him, I won't talk to you anymore. Liu Hongyuan froze. He Wanjin burst out laughing nearby. Liu Ruyan laughed too. I looked at Nianxia, my heart turning into total mush. Liu Hongyuan crouched down and looked at Nianxia. Grandpa wasn't bullying your daddy. Then why did you say those things? Grandpa was just having a little chat with him. A chat? Then why does Daddy need comforting? Liu Hongyuan opened his mouth, but no words came out. Nianxia continued. Daddy tells me stories every day. He stays with me while I sleep. He takes me out to play. He's the best daddy. Grandpa, you're not allowed to mean talk to him. Liu Hongyuan shot me a look. I couldn't quite name the emotion in it. And then he stood up and walked over to me. Wang Chuan. Dad, just now, he paused. I spoke a bit too harshly. Don't take it to heart. I looked at him, suddenly, thinking the old guy wasn't so scary after all. It's fine, I said. He gave a nod, said nothing more, and turned back into the guest room. He Wanjin came over and patted my arm. Wang Chuan, your father is just like that. Don't stoop to his level. I know, Mom. Good. She smiled. All right, everything's fine now. You two go do whatever you need to do. I'm taking Nianxia out to play. Grandma, where are we going? Nianxia perked up immediately. How about the amusement park? Yes. Nianxia ran back to her room to grab her plushie. He Wanjin followed her. The living room was just me and Lu Ruyan again. She looked at me. Really okay? Really okay? Then what about just now? What happened? She suddenly reached up and pinched my cheek. That expression you had. I thought you were actually going to cry. I caught her hand. I was not. Were you? She leaned in. I saw your eyes getting red. I looked away. You saw wrong. She laughed, pulling her hand away. Fine. I saw wrong. She walked toward the bedroom. I followed behind. Into the bedroom. She suddenly turned and pinned me against the door. Wang Chuan? If my dad ever says something like that again, don't just take it. I wasn't just taking it. Yes, you were, she said, staring at me. That expression you had was definitely taking it. I stayed silent. She reached up to stroke my face. You're my husband. You're not here to be a punching bag for the lias. If my dad says something like that again, you fire back. If you can't, I'll do it for you. I looked at her, the warmth in my chest nearly overflowing. Ruyan? Today. What is it with today? You look especially beautiful today. She was taken aback for a second, then laughed. Oh, stop it. I'm serious. She shot me a glare, but that glare had zero power behind it. I leaned down to kiss her. She held her hand up to block my mouth. Wait, Nianxia is still home. She's going to the park with Mom. We still have to wait until they're gone. I looked at her and suddenly smiled. What are you afraid of? I'm not afraid. Then why the wait? She didn't answer, just looked at me with eyes full of light. He Wanjin's voice came from outside. Nianxia, get your shoes on. Let's go. Coming. And then the sound of the front door shutting. The whole house went silent. Liu Ruyan looked at me. Now, I leaned down to kiss her hair. After God knows how long. I only knew the curtains were fluttering in the breeze. The sunlight was streaming in. casting dancing shadows on the floor. She lay beside me, hair spread across the pillow, a thin layer of sweat on her face. Gu Wang Quan? Are you especially moved today? I was taken aback for a second, then smiled. How did you know? Because of the way you looked at me. She turned her head to look at me. It's different from usual. How so? Usually you look at me like I'm your boss. Today, she said, you look at me like I'm your wife. I burst out laughing. I didn't look at you like my wife before. You did. She thought for a moment. But today it's more obvious. I rolled over to hover over her, looking down at her. She looked back. Ruyan? Thank you. For what? Thank you for standing up for me like that. She reached out and pinched my cheek. You're my husband. If I don't protect you, who will? I leaned down to kiss her. But she suddenly blocked my mouth with her hand. Wait, now what? Your phone just went off. I blinked, turning toward the nightstand. The screen was glowing. A WeChat message. I grabbed it to take a look. Wanjun. Mom is taking Nhi out for lunch. We won't be back until late afternoon. You two get some good rest. By the way, your father told me to tell you he's sorry. He's too proud to say it himself. So, I'm saying it for him. I stared at the message, wanting to laugh. Liu Ruyan leaned over to sneak a peek. She smirked. Mom is just, she trailed off, giving us some space. I finished her sentence. She shot me a look. But it was more of a playful glare. I set the phone back down and looked at her. No more interruptions now. She raised an eyebrow. And then, I didn't answer. A breeze drifted in, making the curtains dance again. 3 p.m. Nhi was back. The door flew open, and a little munchkin charged in, looking for, Daddy, Mommy, I'm home. Liu Ruyan and I emerged from the bedroom. One in loungewear, one in pajamas. Both faking that just woke up. Look, Nhi ran up to us, tilting her face up. Did you guys sleep? Ruyan crouched down. Slept for a bit. I slept too. Nhi said. I slept in Grandma's car. Wanjun followed her in beaming at yous. Did you rest well? Ruyan's face turned pink. Mom. All right. I'll stop. Wanjun waved it off. What do you want for dinner? Mom. We'll cook for you. Anything, Ruyan said, standing up. Wang Quan? Wanjun asked. I glanced at Ruyan. Anything is fine. Wanjun smiled. Fine then. I'll just whip something up. She went into the kitchen. Liu Hongguan followed behind. He paused as he passed me. Wang Xuan. He looked at me, opening his mouth, as if to say something, but ultimately just patted my shoulder, without a word. Before heading into the kitchen, I watched him go, thinking the old man's gaze today was quite different from before. Nhi grabbed my hand. Daddy, watch cartoons with me. Okay. I scooped her up and headed to the living room. Ruyan followed. The TV went on. Nhi curled up in my lap, hugging her fatty tiger, and Ruyan sat next to me, resting her hand on my leg. The sun slanted through the window, filling the room with warmth. Daddy, Nhi said suddenly, will Grandpa be mean to you again? I blinked. She looked at me earnestly. If he is, I'll protect you. My heart melted. I held her a little tighter. Okay. And Mommy will protect you too. Nhi added. Mommy is super strong. Even Grandpa is scared of her. Ruyan laughed. I'm not that scary. Yes, you are. Nhi nodded firmly. When you get mad, Grandpa doesn't even dare to speak. Ruyan and I exchanged a smile. Nhi continued. So don't be scared, Daddy. Me and Mommy are here. No one will dare bully you. I looked at her, the warmth in my heart nearly spilling over. All right, Daddy isn't scared. Satisfied. Nhi nodded. and went back to her cartoons. Ruyan gave my leg a gentle squeeze. I turned to her. She wasn't looking at me, but she had a smile on her face. I suddenly felt that life was actually quite good. After dinner, He Wanjin and Liu Hongguan were leaving. At the door, He Wanjin took my hand. Wang Xuan, don't take this morning to heart. Your father just has a sharp tongue. He doesn't mean any harm. I know, Mom. Good. She patted my hand. If anything ever comes up, tell Mom. I'll help you. I nodded. Liu Hongguan stood by, watching me for a moment. Before speaking, Wang Xuan. Today, he paused. I spoke without thinking. I looked at him, waiting for him to continue. He opened his mouth, as if to say more, but finally just said, forget it. Just live your lives well. He turned and stepped into the elevator. He Wanjin waved goodbye, and followed him. The doors closed. Ruyan stood beside me, staring at the elevator. My dad seemed a bit different today. How so? He rarely apologizes to anyone. She turned to me. You're only the third. Who were the first two? My mom first, then me. I laughed. I guess I owe Niangxia a thank you. Why her? If she hadn't come out with all that, your father probably wouldn't have done that. Ruyan thought about it, and nodded. True. She turned back toward the apartment, and I followed. Inside, Niangxia had already climbed onto the sofa. Seeing us, she patted the space beside her. Daddy, Mommy, come watch TV. We sat down on either side of her. Cartoons were playing, and Niangxia was engrossed. Ruyan leaned her head on my shoulder, her hand on my leg. I sat there holding her, watching the screen, thinking about everything that happened today, from the talk this morning, to the rest this afternoon, to the apology tonight. It's been a total roller coaster. Gu Wangquan, Ruyan said suddenly, are you happy today? I thought for a moment, then looked down at her. I am. Really? Really, I said. Even after what your dad said this morning. But then, what happened after that? I leaned in and whispered in her ear. I got comforted by you, didn't I? Her ears turned red, and she gave my waist a sharp pinch. I winced in pain, but I didn't pull away. Niangxia suddenly turned around. Daddy, Mommy, what are you whispering about? Nothing, Ruyan said, keeping a straight face. Daddy says he's sleepy. Then Daddy should go to sleep. No rush, I said. I'll finish this episode with you. Satisfied, Niangxia nodded and went back to the show. Ruyan looked at me, a trace of a smile in her eyes. I looked back at her. More fireworks exploded outside, casting colorful light across her face. Ruyan, Happy New Year. She blinked, then she laughed. It's already the middle of the day. A bit late for Happy New Year, isn't it? As long as it's the first lunar month, it's still New Year's, I said. She shook her head with a smile, and leaned back on my shoulder. Fine. Happy New Year. Gu Wangquan. I held her tighter. Niangxia suddenly cut in a, Daddy, Mommy, I want to be Happy New Year too. Ruyan and I both looked down at her. Happy New Year to you too, Ruyan said. So, where's my red envelope? Niangxia paused, and I burst out laughing. This little traitor might be a handful, but she's never shy when it's time to collect. I'll give it to you today, Ruyan promised. Really? Promise? Pinky swear. Ruyan reached out and locked pinkies with her. Satisfied, Niangxia went back to the TV. Looking at the two of them, I suddenly felt like these 3 years were totally worth it. My phone buzzed. I pulled it out. A WeChat message from Prince Wang Xuan. I sent that 30K back today. Thanks for helping me out last night. If you ever need anything, just say the word. I replied with a quick got it. Ruyan caught a glimpse. He paid you back. Yeah, good. That's more like it. She looked away. Next time he calls, Just ignore him. She stopped talking, resting her head back on my shoulder. The sounds of the cartoons on TV, the fireworks outside, and Nyanxia's occasional giggles all blurred together, becoming the most beautiful soundtrack for the evening. I suddenly remembered New Year's Eve 3 years ago. Back then, I had just moved in, sitting alone in this living room, watching the fireworks through the window, having no idea what the future held. And now, 3 years later, here I am, wife, leaning on my shoulder, daughter, watching TV, right beside me. Sure, my father-in-law gave me a hard time this morning, and the leash is still pretty tight, and I feel a bit stifled sometimes. But life is actually pretty great. Gu Wangshuan, Rian said again. Let's spend every New Year's Eve like this from now on. I looked down at her. Okay, pinky swear. I held out my pinky. Nyanxia saw us and reached out too. Me too. The three of us locked fingers. More fireworks exploded outside, lighting up the room. Watching them, I suddenly thought of a saying. The mundane warmth of life is the greatest comfort of all.